Hello everybody and welcome back to the Midnight Tech YouTube channel. Today we're not talking about anything power puck wise or normal other thing wise I've been making videos. Today we're talking about this Vevor 8 kilowatt Chinese diesel heater that I have installed here in my workshop. So I installed this at the beginning of this winter because I got tired of working back here in my little workshop, which is actually a balcony on the second story of a house with, as you can see, storm windows. There's gaps in these windows that are quite large that aren't sealed, and it is the middle of the winter right now. Right now outside, it is about 5 degrees Fahrenheit, and in here with this thing on just the number 2 setting out of 5, I'm sitting at a comfortable 60 degrees in here. It's actually bearable. So I bought this at the beginning of this winter because last winter I was back here working, making pucks, doing my shipping and handling because my whole shipping setup of all my cardboard boxes and materials are back here. Last year I was working back here in my snowmobile gear. When it was negative outside, it was negative outside back here. It was cold. I was lucky if there was a 10 degrees difference between the outside ambient temperature and inside here. And I got tired of it. And these diesel heaters have become more and more of everyone's making their own knockoffs of each other. It's hard to tell who the original company was. I think, I forget the brand name, but there is an actual brand name that actually started making these, but they started out as tractor heaters for heating up like antifreeze coolant and stuff like that for farm equipment. So it's like Wabasco or something like that. I forget the brand name. And they're the ones that started this diesel heater stuff, and now everybody makes these nice ones that just do air instead of a liquid cooling system kit. But they're all basically about the same. I prefer the Vevors, most because I own a bunch of Vevor crap already. But mostly because they're the most reviewed versions on YouTube that seem to, out of box, not have any freaking problems. Seems a lot of other knockoff manufacturer brands are having issues with just quality of their packing and shipping materials. They really get beat to crap in shipping. Now I've not torn this apart because it worked well out of the box, so I didn't tear it apart. Normally when I buy something new, I will tear it apart immediately. But let's go over here how I have this installed, because it's a bit stupid. As you can see, it's tucked up here in the corner, but it's suspended off the wall by 2 boards. It's about 6 inches away from the wall. I have my muffler intake, my sounded intake right here. It's just folded back out of the way. My fuel line, and then this is my exhaust that goes out a board that's mounted in the window. I have sealant around this board and around the window on the outside. That way the exhaust fumes don't get pulled in, and it's really, really hard to see, but you can see a copper pipe right there. I also have the exhaust extended out about an extra 2 feet away from the window on the outside to get the exhaust further away from these storm windows, since they don't necessarily seal. And in the black tube, there's my my fuel pump and fuel line and everything's in there because I didn't want it directly exposed to the sunlight because, you know, this is a sunroom. It's a balcony sunroom. It's the best. So I put the controller over here. I never, these things are nice. They're cheap as crap. It's not even an LCD. I actually got curious one time and I peeled off the front, and this is all light pipes. It's pretty cool stuff. So it's a circuit board with a bunch of LEDs on it, and the LEDs are segmented through an injection molded piece on the inside. So it's not even an LCD. It is it's a bunch of LEDs. Honestly, with how this is constructed, if you really wanted to, you could take this apart and put a waterproof coating on here. I accidentally just turned it off. You could put a waterproof coating on the circuit board if you wanted to, and waterproof this controller if you really needed to, because it's a very simple board. There's not much going on. Well, now I gotta wait for this thing to turn off, but you'll be able to hear the room. Well, what little you can hear of this room with it off. It's going to have to go through a cool down cycle and everything. Very annoying. But this thing has been a lifesaver so far this winter. I really like it. I think the only thing I'm going to do maybe is take some higher grade plastic or some more piping and move it up across the ceiling here, and kind of like take a 4-inch piece of higher temperature piping and just run it across my ceiling here and put holes in it, like maybe like, I don't know, holes about that big every foot or so to help disperse the heat across my workroom back here, because this workroom is not small, but not big either. My workspace is, usable workspace back here is less than 60 square feet. It's kind of hard to imagine I run a business out of this. But this is where I do it. Minus all the messes I need to clean up out of here all the time, because I'm good at making messes and not putting things back. So for the fuel tank, I need to find a better solution, but I'm going to probably be waiting until spring to do that. The fuel tank's just down here on the floor. This thing sips diesel fuel. I've been tempted to mix some used motor oil in there, because I know you can do that, but diesel's about 7 something a gallon, and only on crazy cold nights like tonight where I've been back here working, do I use about a gallon of fuel, and it's not that bad. That's a gallon of fuel over like 10 hours, by the way, because when I'm back here like running my when I'm doing like pick and place machine stuff, that is a full like 8 to 10 hour day, and it's only using like a gallon of fuel, because most of the time I only need to run it on low. My fuel pump is buried back there somewhere. It's very annoying. It ticks constantly because that's how they are. So I have it kind of buried back in there to quiet it down. The fan itself inside the unit is quiet enough, it doesn't bug me. When my 3D printers and stuff back here are going full bore, or even when I'm running any of my exhaust, my homemade exhaust hood equipment and stuff back here, it's so much quieter than those fans. Like, it just is. But yeah, I've loved this thing so far. I think the only improvement that I'd personally make on this at this point would be, I wish it had some type of air filter on the back to prevent dust and stuff being sucked into it, because I want to put this in my garage. But the problem is, I know other family members will go down there, take advantage of there's heat in the garage, and run power tools and make sawdust. And I don't like the idea of the internal chamber of this being filled with sawdust. Because, yeah, it's going to be equivalent like when I worked at a workshop and they used a big ass open flame kerosene heater in a shop that had a old-fashioned dust collection thing in it. The dust you could literally see in the air and the lights, and somehow that place never exploded. I kind of don't need that type of scenario. Now, the only thing these things don't come with, they all come with mufflers and stuff. I threw that away because I didn't care. The only thing they don't come with is one of these bulkheads. You can pick them up for about 20-30 bucks on Amazon, the stainless steel bulkheads. I highly recommend picking them up. Don't just run it through the wall with silicone or just depend on the sleeving. That provides a lot more heat separation between the surface it's going through and the heat actually going through the surface. Efficiency-wise, I think these things, I think the fan curves on these could be a little bit faster to pull some more heat out of the unit. I think there's still a very substantial heat loss through the exhaust, but that's just kind of the nature of the beast. I do not have the space up here to try to make some type of heat exchanger or anything else like that. When I install probably 1 or 2 of these in my big garage, I will probably figure out how to do some type of heat exchanging and stuff like that. I will say the only reason why this keeps up is this is one of only 2 windows that I don't have plastic over in the winter. So I put plastic over the windows back here, and that helps keep the air from going anywhere except for on very windy nights. But when it's very windy, I tend not to be back here because that thing's going to be running on high and sucking fuel the entirety of the whole night, because the wind just whips through this back porch at night. It is especially bad. You can disable that, by the way. I hate the voice, but I am too lazy to try to use these buttons to turn it off. Anyways, I'll turn it back on. I said I'll turn you back on. Start heating. That's one thing that needs to be fixed. I think they're reading these buttons off of like a PWM type bus where it only checks each button every few seconds or every couple milliseconds where there's a gap. So it doesn't always get your input when you click on something. I prefer the RF remote, but that's on the other side of the room, and I don't feel like grabbing it because it's just a very generic RF remote control. So I will say you can. I did try burning just default used vegetable oil, fryer oil through this. It don't like it. So next, oh, my microphone fell. Rip every single one of you. That probably hurt your ears. I'm not sorry. Yeah, these things are great. It heats my little workshop back here fine. I'm going to be more curious here in the probably next winter when I buy 2 of these and try to get my large workshop heated using these. We used to have a wood stove, but everybody around here is just getting too old to do wood stove stuff and that kind of junk anymore. So we just sold the wood stove a couple years ago, but now the problem is we don't have any heat in our workshop when we actually need to work in there anymore. But since trying this out, that might change. I might put 2 of these down there. But I digress. This thing is great. It's awesome. If you have drafty workshop space like I do up here, you kind of have to crank the temperatures, and it's kind of a pain because it'll suck more fuel the less efficient of a space that you're in. But these things will keep up, and if you have an opportunity to run on low, it will sip fuel. Like I said, this unit will burn about 1 gallon in 8 hours if it's a very mild night, and I don't need to be running at full blast. If I can roll it on the lowest setting, it's great. But yeah, I apologize. It's kind of a camera point in the corner and I talk about something video, but I didn't really care to record anything the day this arrived, so I got it mounted and started using it. And I've been using this since the beginning of this winter. So I've been using it since before Halloween, actually, on and off. Anytime I'm spending an extended amount of time back here in my shop area. So, but yeah, I would say personally I would stick with the brand Vevors. Vevor. I pronounce it differently every time I pronounce anything that's made by that brand. They've just been making these knockoff heaters a lot longer. And they seem to regularly work. And like I said, the only time I really see people having issues with these is if it's a obviously returned item from like Amazon, or if the packaging's really beat all to hell on receival of them. And the only thing safety-wise I'd recommend is get a CO2 meter. Stuff like that, get a CO2 smoke detector or something. Don't just run these and trust that you're not going to die. Like I got one of these little boogers. Tells me the CO2 and everything else. I also have a CO2 smoke detector on the ceiling back here in my workshop, and just and stuff like that. Give yourself some ample warning equipment when you're running these. If you have a draft or an exhaust leak, you might not feel it immediately, but if you're like sleeping in the camper van or using this for anything else like that, these things can very slowly over hours fill your place with CO2 if you don't exhaust the exhaust properly and you don't pay attention. On that note, don't use the pipe clamps it comes with. Buy some better quality ones that we can really tighten down the exhaust hosing. I ended up having to go to the hardware store and getting some better clamps because the ones that came with it were probably the worst pieces of shit I've ever had the privilege of trying to tighten in my life. And I have a fish pond with a bunch of pumps and fountains on it, and those clamps are pretty freaking pain in the ass. So, anyways, I hope you enjoyed a 15-minute rant about the Vevor diesel heater. I really like this. I need to try to do some flex fuel stuff with it, just to see if I get more efficiency or some more BTU out of it. But right now, I'm more than satisfied. Like I said, last year I was working back here in my workshop 3D printing and fulfilling orders in my snowmobile gear because it was cold as old blazing hells back here. Now I'm in my pajamas and a t-shirt. It's nice being able to do that instead. So I will see you on the next video where I decide to ramble about more random crap I've bought. See ya.